This is Land of Havilah, 2 Samuel 9. David has an old promise to keep. Verse 1. David said, "Is there yet any who is left of Saul's house, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Comment: Jonathan and Saul are dead. David wants to know whether Jonathan has any family left. If so, he's going to fulfill an old vow to Jonathan to be kind to the family. David lost contact with Jonathan in 1 Samuel chapter 20 when he had to go on the run from Saul. After that, he only saw Jonathan one brief time that we know of, 1 Samuel 23:16. Jonathan was King Saul's son, and he was Saul's choice to inherit the throne, 1 Samuel 20, verse 31. But Jonathan knew that Yahweh's choice to inherit the throne was David. So to Jonathan's credit, he wanted David to be the next king, 1 Samuel 23:17 and 1 Samuel 18:4. David and Jonathan functioned almost as one person because of their close love and friendship, 1 Samuel 18:3. Quote, "The soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul." End quote. So being that Jonathan was royalty, and David was royalty as well because Yahweh had already anointed him king, the two of them are a picture and type of the royal relationship between God the Father and the Son. They're one. Jonathan died in the Battle of Mount Gilboa, and we couldn't understand why such a righteous person would go down in battle to a violent death long before his time, but this was a picture and foreshadowing of the death of Christ. Christ also went down young to a violent and undeserved death. Now in this chapter, because David loved Jonathan and made that vow to him, he's going to be kind to any offspring that Jonathan might have left. This is a continuation of the same foreshadowing as we see coming up. Verse 2. There was of Saul's house a servant whose name was Ziba, and they called him to David. And the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" He said, "I am your servant." The king said, "Is there not yet any of Saul's house, that I may show the kindness of God to him?" Ziba said to the king, "Jonathan still has a son who is lame in his feet." The king said to him, "Where is he?" Ziba said to the king, "Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Ammiel, in Lo-debar." Comment: Ziba was one of Saul's old servants. He knew the whereabouts of Jonathan's offspring. It turns out Jonathan had one living son named Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth was 5 years old when the Philistines defeated Israel and killed his father and grandfather. When the news of the defeat arrived in the capital, the royal family fled the premises. In the panic to escape, Mephibosheth injured both feet and never got over it, 2 Samuel 4:4. Mephibosheth has fallen on hard times as an adult. He was born a somebody, but now he's a nobody, so to speak. Apparently he's unable to support himself because he's in the house of someone named Machir who lives in Lo-debar. Mephibosheth is a picture of you and me. Because of our sin, we're lame. We were created children of God, but we fell from our royal positions because of sin. The future looked very bleak until verse 5. Then King David sent and brought him out of the house of Machir, the son of Ammiel, from Lo-debar. Comment: Our future looked very bleak until the King of the universe called us to himself. David has called Mephibosheth to himself for Jonathan's sake, which is a foreshadowing of God calling us to himself for Christ's sake, as a result of the agreement they made long before we came into existence. Verse 6. Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David and fell on his face and showed respect. Comment: Mephibosheth fell on his face and showed respect in thanksgiving that David called him, which is a foreshadowing of us falling down and worshiping God in thanksgiving that he called us. Mephibosheth was just glad to be called, and so are we. Still in verse 6. David said, "Mephibosheth." He answered, "Behold your servant." Comment: When God calls our name, we should say, "Behold your servant." Verse 7. David said to him, "Don't be afraid, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan your father's sake, and will restore to you all the land of Saul your father. You will eat bread at my table continually." Comment: God has said to you and me, "Don't be afraid, for I will surely show you kindness for Christ my son's sake. For you were born royalty, created as a son of God, and you fell, but I will restore you to the royal table. You will eat there continually, and I will restore your entire royal inheritance." Verse 8. He bowed down and said, "What is your servant that you should look at such a dead dog as I am?" Comment: We were dead dogs, dead in our trespasses and sins, unable to help ourselves, and we have trouble understanding how such a marvelous thing could be possible. Verse 9. Then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said to him, "All that belonged to Saul and to all his house I have given to your master's son. Till the land for him, you, your sons, and your servants. Bring in the harvest, that your master's son may have bread to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master's son, will always eat bread at my table." Comment: David just gave Mephibosheth untold riches. When Saul was king, he gathered to himself all the best of the land, the vineyards, olive groves, and fields, just the best, 1 Samuel 8:11 through 18. Now all of it belongs to Mephibosheth. As David said, he was giving him, quote, all that belonged to Saul and all that belonged to Saul's house, meaning everything that Saul's entire family owned is now Mephibosheth's. These are the great riches of our inheritance in God, what Paul called the riches of the glory of our inheritance, Ephesians 1:18. Ziba and his sons will do all the labor on that inheritance. Mephibosheth won't have to do anything. Our salvation's a free gift. It's not of works, Ephesians 2:8. Mephibosheth didn't earn his new position, and we didn't either. Still in verse 10. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Comment: That was 36 people, which is more help than Mephibosheth will know what to do with. But he won't have to know anything because Ziba will oversee it all. All Mephibosheth needs to worry about is showing up at David's table, and all we need to worry about is showing up at the Lord's table for fellowship. And we should remain loyal and thankful to the king, but that's exactly what we want to do anyway. Verse 11. Then Ziba said to the king, "According to all that my lord the king commands his servant, so your servant will do." So Mephibosheth ate at the king's table like one of the king's sons. Comment: You and I should say to God, "According to all that my lord the king commands me to do, I will do." Verse 12. Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah. All that lived in Ziba's house were servants to Mephibosheth. Comment: That was the only mention of Mephibosheth's son Micah. He's included too. This is according to the vow David took. It included everyone in Jonathan's house, 1 Samuel 20:15. So Micah is included. Verse 13. So Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he ate continually at the king's table. He was lame in both his feet. Comment: Mephibosheth will live in Jerusalem and eat at the king's table continually. You and I will live in the New Jerusalem and eat at the king's table continually. Revelation 21:1 through 8. That's the chapter. 2 Samuel 10 is next at landofhavilah.net, 2 Samuel 10.